Yesterday, I attended my first NFL international game. The Miami Dolphins hosted the Washington Commanders at Bernabeu Stadium. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly, in Madrid. It is the same stadium where Real Madrid play. And according to the screens at the game, there were 78,610 fans in attendance. So it was pretty amazing, pretty big crowd. I hopped on the high-speed rail in the morning, went to the game, and then came back in the same evening. And here are a few of my thoughts on the game. First off, I wore my Philadelphia Eagles jersey to the game. Normally, when you are going to a game in the United States, it's considered a bit taboo or uncool to wear the jersey of a team that's not in the game to a game. It's sort of like how when I was growing up, it was considered uncool to attend a rock concert wearing a t-shirt of the band that was playing. Just one of those things in the US. But since this is an international game and it is one of the few opportunities for people in Europe to see an NFL game in person, hey, everyone wears whatever jersey that they have. And so there was representation from just about every team in the NFL there. And I do have to say, my fellow Philadelphia Eagles fans did represent there. There were quite a few Eagles fans there, and I got a lot of the shout outs and the waves and so on from that. When we got there, we were sitting behind the cheerleaders for the Washington Commanders. And I don't mean like the Washington Commanders cheerleaders were on the field doing their routines and where we were sitting behind them. As I mentioned, it was a Miami Dolphins home game. So on the field were all the Miami Dolphins cheerleaders, but the Washington Commanders cheerleaders also accompanied them on the trip. They go visit U.S. military bases. They do these other different performances to promote the NFL. And since they weren't on field during the game, well, they sit in the stands. And in our section, they were in the row right in front of us. It was pretty hard to miss because it was like an entire row of very young, very attractive women. And it's not something that you typically see at an NFL game. And they're very nice, very friendly. The director of entertainment for the Washington Commanders talked to us. She was sitting in front of us, very good ambassador for the sport. So that was pretty interesting. The only downside is, again, I'm wearing my Philadelphia Eagles jersey. You might not know it, but Philadelphia and Washington, not only are the cities close to each other in the U.S., but they are in the same division in the NFL. So they play twice a year, and especially last year, it was a bit contentious just because Washington had a great year, as did Philadelphia, and Philadelphia beat Washington in their first meeting of the year. At first, the Eagles started out 2-2 for the season. They weren't doing well. And then they won 12 out of the next 13 regular season games. And the only time that they lost was to the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders made it into the playoffs as a wild card team, and they did great. They went all the way to the NFC Championship game where they played the Philadelphia Eagles. And honestly, the Philadelphia Eagles creamed them. So wearing a Philadelphia Eagles jersey right by the Washington Commanders cheerleaders, they were still very, very kind to me despite all of that. Both the Miami Dolphins and Washington Commanders did pretty well last year. This year, neither team is really in contention, so that was a little bit of a downside to the game. One of the cool things I really enjoyed, I'd never seen the Miami Dolphins play, especially not with their current quarterback. And so a lot of people complain about Tua's last name being hard to pronounce, but whenever Tua has a good play, they go Tua on the speakers, and it sounds really funny because it just sounds like Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman going hoo-ah. And so after they do that, everyone in the crowd is doing Tua, Tua. So it's just a little fun thing, and I'd never known that they'd done that at the Miami Dolphins games. Okay, here is my big complaint. Here is my big contention. This is an international NFL game. It is high profile. They're hosting this at a very popular stadium for a very popular football team. And I'm talking about football as it is known in the rest of the world, not American football. They should be experts at getting a huge number of people into the stadium. The line to get into the stadium was ridiculously long. I had gotten there about 45 minutes early. If you've ever gone to an NFL game in the United States, you know that it does not take that long to get into the stadium. I've been to several Seattle Seahawks games. It takes, 5-10 minutes to get in. It's usually not too bad. If you've been to LA's new stadium, it is amazing. And they've got this system where it's like pretty much just walk through. The only thing that is an issue is that they have all these machines where you can have your ticket read. It's just not made to work very well in bright sunlight. If you know Los Angeles, they have a lot of bright sunlight there. That was the only hiccup, but otherwise, easy to get in, lots of places to get drinks and all that. It's just a top-notch experience. But this line was ridiculously long, the longest line that I've ever been in to get into a stadium, and it wasn't moving. And the whole crowd was talking about it, and it's getting closer and closer to game time. And you're like, I'm nowhere near the entrance. I'm probably going to miss the first quarter or the first half. And then 5 minutes before the game was supposed to start, it's sort of like they said, screw it, just let everyone in. They just opened up all these other different entrances, which begs the question, why didn't they open up these entrances before? And so within that 5 minutes, I was able to get from being very far back in line through security, which was a 5-second pat down at best, and then get my ticket scanned and into the stadium. So that's something that should be worked on, and there's no reason for that, as this game was announced, like 6 months ago? And again, you have all the money behind the NFL, and you have all the experience that the stadium for the Real Madrid have, and so it just should not have been like that. But anyhow, it was just a small sort of little blight on an otherwise great day. Another thing to mention is that the seats there are made for Europeans. I mean, we were like in shoulder to shoulder, and I'm not a small guy. I'm like 120 kilograms. I'm broad, I'm big, got a big butt, and so we were really smushed in there in the seats. Also, this was the first game that I attended where I wasn't drinking, and it's kind of a shame because if you go to an NFL game in the United States, you know that it's expensive to get a drink. And so even going to a baseball game, like at a Seattle Mariners game, you're looking at like $15 for just a beer at the stadium there. But for a football game, you can get mixed drinks. And so your mixed drinks are probably $20 minimum there. And the drinks at the Bernabeu Stadium were inexpensive. But I wasn't drinking, so it wasn't an issue. It does make you realize a few things. And so there are quite a few fans there who were drinking a lot. And there were a couple in our row who it literally seemed like every 5 minutes they were getting up to go get beers. And there were about 4 of them. And it's not like they went together. It's like one would get up, and of course the whole row has to stand up to let them pass. And then A minute, 2 minutes later, another one of the group was passing by. And so when you have four people doing this, one by one going out and then coming back for drinks, it's like you're just getting up and sitting down the entire game. And it got really, really annoying for us. And one of the people in their group was like clearly drunk. And it begs the question, it's like, why would you spend all that money going to an NFL game? NFL games are not inexpensive. Why would you spend all that money and then you're just going to get smashed and obliterated and probably not going to remember that much? Along those same lines, if you've ever been to an NFL game, in every single section, there's at least one person who makes the game about themselves. They're there to get attention on them. And so there was a guy who was a few rows ahead of us, and he had gotten drunk, and he basically was facing back towards the crowd as opposed to facing the game and just talking with his friends the whole time, just being drunk. And it was just, it was mildly annoying. But again, it's like, why spend that money? Why bother going to a football game in person if you're just going to get drunk and focus on talking to your friends and not even looking at the football field? But anyhow, those are just some of my thoughts on my first international NFL game. I am looking forward to going to more in future years and doing a little bit of travel, maybe going to London next year for the game, or maybe going to Germany. Who else? Who knows what other countries will be hosting them in the future? Maybe I'll have another game here in Spain. That would be great. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Talk to you later.